your head, and I'll grab a bottle of a single malt instead. I'll meet you in the middle of rock and roll's glory days, and wake up in the morning in a thick purple haze. Scotch on the rocks, Scotch on the rocks, Scotch on the rocks, Scotch on the rocks.
Sorry, guys, my bad. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out, man.
I can't hear you. Oh, now I can hear Mike laughing.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I was muted. I apologize.
Oh, no, I could hear you, Deke, but I couldn't hear. Mike was like,
Yeah. I'm a mime.
there you go.
How you doing?
I'm great, guys. How are you doing?
Pretty darn good.
Hey, man, thanks so much for hopping on Scotch on the Rocks with us on a Wednesday night, Nick.
No problem, man. No problem. And so you're in Thunder Bay, Deke, is that correct?
You bet.
And Mike, where are you at?
I'm in Kitchener, Ontario.
Oh, you're local boy.
I'm local.
There you go. For some reason, I don't know. I thought you were in the Peg or something.
No, here in KW.
There you go.
About an hour away from you and from the 401 there.
Yeah, right on, right on.
Yeah, it's Northern Ontario versus Southern Ontario tonight.
There you go.
Let's get her on. So you know what, Nick? Me and Mike, we've been following your career for 30 years now, and
now you're aging me, man. Oh, show me that again, Mike. What do you got? What do you got?
I got them all, actually. We have
nice,
Smooth and Deadly,
yeah.
Of course, the debut.
Right on.
My personal favorite.
Yeah.
And the reissue with the demo of White Lies, Black Truth.
Yes. Wow, you got that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it wasn't easy to get either.
So that's what we want to do, the whole deep dive with you from the start of Virgin Angels into Portrait, into Slik Toxik, into after you left Slik Toxik and you went into acting.
Yeah.
And then you went into other musical projects, which you can see along the ticker, and everything else in between, including your current project, Famous Underground, which is fantastic. So
thank you.
We don't want to keep you on till midnight, so we better get rolling here. So.
Okay, I'm yours at least for an hour.
Awesome.
Perfect.
I know these things could probably run on and on and on, and when I get going, people usually have to click the off button. So,
well, we can keep going. We can click off, but you can hang with us. So we'll get started. So
right on.
Where did you want to start? Did you want to start?
I want you to start. Look, I'm your guest.
Okay.
So
wow.
You guys start and let me know. Just start asking or telling me stuff.
Pressure's on, buddy.
Pressure's on. Well,
I'm used to this.
Well, why don't we'll just start from the beginning and work our way to the present.
Sure.
So, you guys, Slik Toxik, when you guys came out on my radar, it was by Meat Magazine.
Okay.
And I think Mike has the prop.
Okay. That actually, that's the second cover that we've actually been on. I think we were on, I'm not sure if it was issue 2 or 3, probably 3.
Inside here, it also says that you were on the cover of issue 7.
What issue is that? This
is 31.
Okay, well, there you go. It was issue 7 then,
on the cover.
I just knew it was but it was, we were on the cover, but with other acts as well. So at that time, Meat Magazine was a newsprint magazine. It didn't have a glossy cover and all that stuff. It wasn't a real sort of what we would deem as a real magazine. It was more of a local thing. I'm not sure, you'd have to ask Drew Masters, which he would probably be a great guest to be on your show too, because he had a lot to do with promoting the Toronto scene. And then that magazine there turned into a national magazine, right? So.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is how I heard of Slik Toxik, you know, when you guys were doing demos and Drew was reviewing them. Always, he was a huge booster for you guys.
Yeah.
And this interview is one of the best that you're going to find for the era of Slik Toxik. I mean, the detail, playing Larry's Hideaway at age 14.
Yeah, with Virgin Angel, that was Virgin Angel, and that was like sort of my first foray into the Toronto scene at 14 years old. My cousin's boyfriend at the time, he was in a band. He played bass. I don't think he ended up having a career, but he was part of that whole Larry's Hideaway, Gasworks, going to those clubs. And, you know, it kind of thrilled me that my cousin was going out with this musician. You know, I was 13 years old at the time. And he said, "Hey, man, I could get you guys a gig at Larry's Hideaway." I'm like, "What? Like a real rock club? Not just like my school cafeteria?" You know what I mean? So myself and at the time, bass player and my collaborator, David Murcell, who was my best friend since we were like, I don't know, probably about 6 years old or something like that. The two of us went down with this guy to Larry's Hideaway to get a gig. And it was so weird because we went there. There was a band playing called Herrenvolk. And that was this 16-year-old singer at the time who was also underage, 16 years old. But I think he was like 6 foot tall, and his name was Sebastian Bach. So he was playing in the club the night that we went and booked our first gig. Actually, I'd heard them playing When the Lightning Strikes by Aerosmith.
Nice.
While we were upstairs dealing with this guy, Fred, who ran the place. And as it turned out, he lived across the street from me. I had no idea, this Fred guy. And we booked a show. It was, I believe it was March 18th. I want to say 1985, because I was 14, turning 15 that year. And it was a Monday night. And I don't know how old you guys are, but at the time, there was a beer strike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a beer strike, and only certain bars in Toronto. I don't know if you lived outside of Toronto, Mike, all that time, but
always, yeah.
There was only certain bars in Toronto that somehow were able to get some beer. And Larry's Hideaway happened to be one of them. They were getting kegs of Pabst Blue Ribbon delivered from Buffalo or something like that. So needless to say, we played on a Monday night and we had 100 people. We literally had 100 people there. And this is the days where you had tickets and you would like give out tickets and flyers and stuff like that. And every ticket that came in with your band's name on it was worth $2 or $1 at that time, probably. So yeah, it was $1. We had $100. And you know what that paid for? A rental of a Marshall stack that I had rented for the show. Because I only had a tiny little Ibanez amp at the time, and we really wanted to do it up, right? But yeah, that was our first foray into playing Larry's Hideaway at 14 years old. And we did I was going to say we did a mixture of covers and originals, and our covers consisted of everything from like, you know, a Kiss song to a Sex Pistol, anything that had 3 chords we would play, you know.
Well, you answered like 4 of my questions right there, so I'm going to let Deke take over.
When I get rolling, it's like you got to hit the red button to shut.
I'm like going through my checklist, like Dave Murcell. Yeah, I was going to ask him who that was. You know?
Well, Dave, the thing about Dave was like we played in the band, which became Portrait, right up until I guess we were about. Dave's a year older than me, so I think he must have turned about 17 or 16, 17. And at that time, we kind of wanted to get some better players. And Dave and I, we'd been writing songs, believe it or not. We'd written like our first song together with this older guy, this neighbor who was a musician in our neighborhood when we were like again, 7, 8 years old. Silly lyrics and whatnot, but nonetheless, it was our first sort of instance as to writing original music. And so at that age, we wanted to take it up a notch. So we got other musicians. Dave stopped playing bass in the band. He was the bass player. I was a singer guitar player. I switched from fronting the band, playing guitar, to just sort of doing this, but still writing. And as you can see behind me, I got loads of guitars and everything. It's so funny because over the years, people would be like, I didn't know you played guitar. I'm like, really? Half of those riffs, if not more, on the Slik Toxik records were, stuff that I had come up with. So,
well, I've monopolized the first part of the show, so I'm going to let Deke roll for now.
Actually, I think I've monopolized it.
You're supposed to, though.
You're supposed to, man. Nobody wants to hear our stories.
Hey, can I stay at 14 years old for a second? I just want to tell you something, because when Deke had asked me to be on the show, he told me that Andy Kern was on the show, and he'd sent me a link to check out what you guys were doing. But I got to be honest, I did catch a bit of phrase on there about a month ago or so. But I just got a quick Andy Kern story for you.
Sure.
When I was like, I'd say maybe 12 at the time. Do you know what year the first Coney Hatch record came out, guys? Was it 81?
82.
82. Yeah. So yeah, I would be about 11 or 12 years old. And I was into this band from where Mike's from, called or London Way, actually, called Helix. And there used to be this music gear show in Toronto. Like, you've heard of NAMM down in California, right? Well, we used to have our own too. It was called MIAC for many years, but the instance that I'm talking about, it was like the first 2 years of this thing. And it wasn't called MIAC at the time, I don't believe. But I went down. A friend of mine's father bought us tickets to go to this music show because we were right into music. And we saw that Helix was going to be there at this Lato Guitars booth. And we were like, oh, this is going to be awesome. We're going to get to meet Helix. Well, as it turned out, we were there on the Sunday. Helix was there on the Saturday. But Steve Shelsky and Andy Kern also played Lato guitars. And they happened to be at the booth that day. So I met Andy Kern, and I was only like I said, 11, 12 years old. And he was teaching me how to play monkey bars. This is like these stories could only happen in, I don't know, in like my life, that type of thing. You know what I mean? That's a true fact. And then I tell the story, and I told the story when, okay, I'm fast forwarding. You guys won't even get to ask any questions.
Well, that makes our job easy.
I'm just going to go far ahead. So when I did the Metal on Ice with Sean Kelly and that, Carl Dixon was there and everything, and I told that story at a press conference. Okay, I just wanted to get that off my chest because I saw Andy on the show a week or two ago. So
yeah, Andy's been a good pal to us, and Mike, like one of those guys I reached out to, just like yourself, saying, you know what, we're just a couple of musical yahoos, fans, want to just come on, love to talk to you, been following you for 40 years, yada, yada. And yeah, he's come on with us about 4 times now. And you know what? He's such a great guy. And in the big scheme of things, Nicholas, I'm kind of forming this super group. So now I got you on vocals, got Andy on bass, Sean Kelly on guitar, Fraser on guitar, and Mike's got his drummer buddy from Savan Galley.
Yeah, I was talking to Dan Fila a couple weeks ago. We got this like whole Meat Magazine circle of friends,
Sure, that's great.
Yeah.
So that's and as I told Sean Kelly, I'll be the cotton tech. I'll sell the t-shirts and work the merch table for you guys for free.
Yeah, for a t-shirt and a hat.
Yeah. Yeah. So take us back to like the whole scenario of Slik Toxik. For me, like Meat Magazine, living here in Thunder Bay, I came across it when I was in Toronto one time, picked it up. Couldn't believe the scene down there. I was like, wow. Yeah. I would look at the back at like Rock and Roll Heaven. You guys were on there, Eiffel Power, Jack Damage, plus, you know, the bands at the time, like Badlands would be rolling through, Blue Murder, and I'm like, man, I am stuck in Thunder Bay. But
yeah. Well, I'm sorry for you about that, but like you're naming all these bands that were all friends of mine, and you know, some people have passed on, and some people are out of the business, and you know, you just named some bands. I'm just like, wow, that's so cool.
And so obviously I got a subscription to it because I wanted to keep in the loop, so to speak. So that's how I learned about hearing about Slik Toxik. Slik Toxik / Puppet, I guess, was the other band that was kind of making some noise. So you guys got out of the gate. Just kind of curious, how did all that go about, and you guys securing a record deal with Capitol Records?
Well, it wasn't that quick. I mean, it might seem that way. As we're older now, time seems to pass a lot quicker. But no, when we first came out, I mean, we were doing shows that first of all, we were called Portrait for a little while, and the last incarnation of Portrait was pretty much the first Slik Toxik, if you will, minus the bass player. We ended up Pat Howarth, who was from Thunder Bay. He was a guy that lived across the street from me in an apartment building, and I mean, my first introduction with Pat, the first thing I thought was, holy shit, does this guy look like Randy Rhoads? So, you know, anyway, myself and Rob Bruce, Dave Marcel, and Pat, we used to knock around. And Pat wasn't even in the band at the time. And he was playing with a band called Cardinal Sin, which was predominantly, I guess you could say, a cover band. I mean, they did do some originals, but they weren't pursuing it. Like, I don't know if you remember, Deke, in Thunder Bay, like at the In Town or Sleeping Giant, or the Sleazy G, as people used to like to call it. Bands would roll in and do a residency for 4 or 5 nights. And during that residency, I mean, they'd have to play 3 or 4 sets in a night. So they wouldn't really do originals as an original set. They would try to sort of squeak an original here or there in between a Dio or a Maiden tune or whatever. They would throw in an original song. And then maybe on a Friday night, when they know their last night there, or the Saturday or whatever, they would sort of, you know, open for themselves. They would, you know, say, we're so-and-so, and play originals for 35 minutes and then come out and do all the covers when people actually don't really care. You know, but so Pat was doing that, and we kept saying, leave the band, man, leave that band. Come join our band. We're cooler. We got original songs. We're going to make it, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And because he was our friend, he just sort of went, you know what? Why not? You know? So he joined the band. At that time, we were still Portrait, and we had a different drummer. His name was Alex Monroe. He was again a brother of ours. Like, see, that's the thing when you're young and in a band, and it's like your band of brothers, and you got each other's backs, and you're rehearsing 5-6 nights a week. I mean, you didn't care. You'd work your shitty day job. You'd come home. You'd take a quick shower. You'd eat your food. You'd get on the bus, you know, fly halfway across town to go to your rehearsal space, even though you had to get up and do it all over again tomorrow. And you'd stay there till 11 o'clock at night, jamming and writing tunes or whatever. So that's what we were doing. And we were playing shows as we changed. Had we changed the name at this point? Yes, we did. So what happened was, Pat and Rob were a little older than me. I couldn't get into the bars yet. You know, I was still 17, 18 years old. And they had met Drew Masters. And Drew, prior to Meat Magazine, I believe he was working for a magazine called Music Express.
Correct.
Which was a fairly well-to-do magazine here in Canada.
Yes.
And it was like I say magazine because it had a glossy cover. But he was on the scene and stuff. And he came and checked us out at our rehearsal spot. And he thought we were pretty cool and whatnot. And he just said, your name is kind of lame, right? Portrait. And it's funny because when we named ourselves Portrait, which was a few years prior to that, it was because I was such a King Diamond freak. I wanted to name the band Fatal Portrait, which was the name of his first solo record when he left Merciful Fate. And then people would be like the band guys were like, well, what are people going to think we're a King Diamond tribute or something?
Right,
so,
right.
Okay, well then how about just Portrait, right? So that's what we were called. So Drew was like, your name's lame and whatever. So then we brainstormed a bunch of names, and Slik Toxik was the one that sort of, I guess, the democracy of the band voted for. So then we went out on the scene as Slik Toxik, but we weren't right away playing clubs like the Gasworks. We hadn't graduated to that yet. Mm-hmm. We were playing some smaller clubs around town that, again, had that sort of, sleazy promoter who would like give you tickets to give out. The same sort of deal as the Larry's Hideaway thing, where it's whatever ticket comes in with your name on it at the door, they would put it into a box, and at the end of the night count your little ticket stubs and say, okay, well, you only had 25 people. And we're like, that's bullshit. Like, we had like 80 people here or whatever, you know what I mean? So it was that kind of thing, playing clubs around town like the Marquee or the Alma Combo, or I know the Elmo carries a big name and has a lot of weight because like the Stones did an album there. At the time, though, when we were on the scene, the Elmo wasn't really the Elmo. It was just like, it wasn't the greatest. I don't know if it was the management or what, but it was just one of those sort of rinky clubs around town. So we did that for a while. And then Drew was managing a band called Success.
Yes.
Who actually happened to don the first cover of Meat. And, at that time, there was some rumor that Drew had actually just started this magazine to promote Success or any of the bands that he was working with at the time. As I said, Drew, there was a rumor. I don't know if it was true. You can convince me of otherwise in a conversation. But so they were doing a couple of shows. They did one at another sort of off the beaten track club called the Siboney, which is in Kensington Market in Toronto. I don't know if you know Kensington, but it's like an old school sort of produce and butcher shops and thrift shops and stuff like that. So
smells like fish.
Yeah. Or garbage. It depends on what you call it. Or death, right? But so the Siboney Club, and then they were playing a date in Brampton at a club called Hot Rocks, which was a really nice club. So Drew offered us the gig as an opening act, and I think the Hot Rocks gig was the first one we did, and then we did the Siboney Club. Well, when we did the Siboney Club, there happened to be somebody at the show by the name of John Boyes, and John Boyes was the brother of Robert Lutella. These are the people that ended up becoming our management. Robert Lutella management, but John Boyes, who was his younger brother, was kind of our handler, so to speak. Like, he's the guy that was on the road with us all the time. And Bob's the one that did more of the executive side, I guess you could say. So it wasn't until we got that management that we were, getting into places like the Gasworks. And the Gasworks was a big step up from where we were before, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Wow. The Gasworks, I still remember they had the tallest beers.
Yeah, they had quarts, which for Ontario was sort of unheard of because you could get them on the Quebec side, but you couldn't get them here.
Yeah, I remember seeing that for the first time, and I was like, we're not in T-Bay anymore, kids.
No, that's it. That's it.
So after all that, like, how does all the recording contract?
Well, again, it was all such a progression, right? Like, so we started off at the upstairs Gasworks, which kind of was their sort of introduction, new bands or whatever. Let's see how they do upstairs, because downstairs was the premier club. And again, I remember you know, seeing such greats play there, like Phil Narrow. I don't know if you know Phil.
Yes, rest in peace, Phil.
Yeah. Phil. I remember standing outside. I wasn't even able to get in, and because of the baby face, I mean, I would be standing out there at 17, and people would think I was 12. You know,
Right.
But I'd stand outside while my buddies went inside, you know, to look for girls or whatever they were doing. I'd be waiting outside, listening to the tunes and just waiting for my friends to come out, you know. And but yeah, so downstairs gasworks. So after we graduated from upstairs to the downstairs, then we started to get the I guess the notoriety on the scene a little bit. And Bob was managing, or Bob Lutella, he was managing this band called Rain at the time, which was sort of like a progressive. I mean, they wanted to be progressive, but I think they were more like, you know, like Gowan or something. You know how Larry Gowan, he's a Yes fanatic and all that stuff. He's in Styx now, but you know, all that Beatles fanatic, later Beatles, Yes, all that stuff. So Rain was kind of like what that would be, I guess. We weren't really the right band for the bill, but we nonetheless opened for them because they were playing at Rock and Roll Heaven. It was a way that we could kind of get in and perform for Gareth Brown, who was the guy that ran Rock and Roll Heaven. So the moment we did that, we had our in, and we graduated from the Gasworks to Rock and Roll Heaven,
which is legendary.
And if anybody wants to see Rock and Roll Heaven and Slik Toxik, go on YouTube after we're done.
Yes,
and
after.
there's a full live Slik Toxik show from probably around that time, right up on YouTube. You can see these guys knocking out live, and it's actually a very, considering the time, very well done video.
Thank you. Yeah, the one thing that was cool about Rock and Roll Heaven is that they had sort of that short circuit TV stuff in the venue. So because the venue wasn't laid out very well for a rock show, it wasn't like, I mean, anybody that never went there would probably picture Rock and Roll Heaven was like this great club to showcase at or anything. It carried more weight in the vibe than it did as a concert venue. So it was laid out very poorly for that, but really laid out well for schmoozing. And the band would play, you'd have to walk like half a mile, you know, in the club to get to where the band was playing. But there were TVs all around the venue, and they always had this one stationary camera sort of above the soundboard on an angle showing the band. But after we'd played there a couple of times, we would hire, you know, local video crews to come in, tap into that so that thered be a multi-camera shoot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You guys got to check it out. It's actually really good. I mean, it's all live. There's none of this silly auto-tune tape stuff. It's live off the floor. A different era for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Doubtless.
Yeah. Mikey?
Well, let me go to my notes here.
Mikey's looking at his notes going, well, he's just covered like all 3 pages.
Well, you know, there's somebody here that we haven't talked about yet. Yeah. Jerry Miller from Metal Edge. I understand she was an early backer of Slik Toxik.
Yes.
Any memories of Jerry?
Absolutely. Jerry, I remember when, well, obviously at this point we were signed, and there used to be I'm not telling you guys, I'm telling anybody watching who may be a little younger, long before being able to be on the internet, check out videos or interviews or any of that stuff, we always had to get all our information from magazines. And, you know, that's how we would find out our favorite band had a new record coming out, or a tour was happening. And Jerry Miller was one of those people at the Metal Edge magazine that was a huge supporter specifically of like that 80s. Like when I was a kid, it was Circus and Cream. Yeah. And then it wasn't until the 80s, mid 80s that we found Metal Edge magazine. So Jerry came up here to Toronto from New York when we were doing a video shoot for the Big Fucking Deal promotional video, as well as a video sort of documentary introduction, I guess, that was shot for Hard and Heavy, which used to be a video magazine. So this is what I'm saying to the people watching right now, is that not only could you get a magazine, but in the early 90s, Hard and Heavy was a VHS tape. It was even before DVDs. VHS tape, people could have a subscription to and get your monthly VHS tape delivered to your door, and it would show interviews and videos and so forth of bands. So they had come up to do that. We were performing at the Opera House in Toronto, which, again, we graduated from the whole Rock and Roll Heaven thing to being able to play an actual concert hall, right? The Opera House is a beautiful, beautiful old venue, big stage. If you go online, actually, to the Famous Underground, that's my band now, Famous Underground YouTube page, there's a clip of us doing Ace of Spades by Motorhead, and that is done at the Opera House. It's just a great venue. I mean, Metallica played there at one of those sort of, we're playing for the fans gigs, where, nobody could get a ticket kind of thing. But yeah, so we were playing there. Jerry Miller had come up from New York for that. We got to hang around with her for the weekend. Then she had invited us to play at, I'm not sure if it was an anniversary, Metal Edge anniversary party. I believe it was at the Limelight in New York City, which was, again, a big thrill because the Limelight's an old church that's been converted into this crazy nightclub. I don't know if it still exists, but it had all these different rooms and secret rooms and all this stuff. But then it had a main concert hall that was very, very similar to the Opera House or to the Spectrum in Toronto. And we got to perform there with, again, here's this little old band from Toronto getting on an airplane and flying to New York City and getting on stage with bands at the time like Winger and Trickster and like all the Metal Edge bands, the Nelson Brothers. I don't even remember. I mean, I got a good memory, but I don't remember all the bands. And why? Because I was having way too much fun, probably drinking my face off after our 2 or 3 song performance, So that's probably what happened. But yeah, Jerry was a really, really big supporter of us. And she was a really nice lady. Big fan of the music,
Yeah, that was clear. Very clear. She was passionate about it.
Yeah, I found over time that Metal Edge became a better magazine than Circus even,
Yeah.
And Hit Parader and all of them. Like she was more, it seemed like Metal Edge for North American magazine was more up to date with what was going on.
Well, I think it also had, at that time, more actual interviews, whereas it seemed like Circus and Hit Parader had become more of a pinup magazine.
Very much.
And then the other magazine that was great that, we had a little support from was Lon Friend's Rip magazine.
Oh, Rip. Yeah. That's another
I loved the thing I loved about Rip was because I was into a lot of the heavier bands. I wasn't so much into the Tricksters and stuff like that. I could see Megadeth in Rip magazine, or I could see, you know what I mean? Like Suicidal Tendencies would be in Rip magazine. Certain bands that I liked that may not have, been synonymous with the hair metal thing. Again, the hair metal thing is so weird because our band, I mean, if you go to our influences, what we're like, I could tell you certain riffs and certain songs, what they're influenced by, and people would be like, what? I'd be like, oh yeah, this riff is a blatant rip off of Merciful Fate's Curse of the Pharaohs. And they would not even know that. They would think that we were influenced by whatever, at the time. So, yeah.
If I may compliment you on one riff that I particularly enjoy.
Yes.
On the second album, there's a track called I Want a Gun. And that has to be the heaviest riff that you guys have ever played.
Yeah, that would be Kevin Gale. Kevin Gale came up with that riff. it was and I wrote those lyrics honestly in about 10 minutes. And I wrote them. See, normally, Dave and I would suss out topics of songs and although, we called him the lyricist, him and I worked symbiotically on the process of marrying melody and words because we felt that it shouldn't just be about a story or a poem. The words should be sounding good too, but it still had to make sense. Some words sound good, like you can hear certain bands and then you go, but it doesn't even make any sense what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But that one was me because I had been on a phone call with EMI Records at the time. I was talking to the assistant A&R at the time, and I was getting really pissed off because I was kind of feeling like, they weren't paying attention to us. Our management at the time had also, the thing about us and what really angered us and why there's such anger on that Irrelevant record is because we just felt like we were the ones that opened up the door for a bunch of the people we worked with. And then once that door had swung open, they felt that it was sort of just them that did it. Like we thought that, our management had signed I Mother Earth to their management. And then, they had all sorts of interest from other labels around North America. And they just so happened to go with the same label we were on. And to me, this was the management with its comfort level, I guess. I'm still cool with John, and I have not seen Bob in a long time, and I'd be fine with him now. I mean, we're all adults and everything, but at the time, we felt like it was all the hard work that not only did you guys do to help sell us, but we did for you to have a product to sell. How many doors got slammed on your face with Rain, the other band you managed at the time, or some of the other artists that you had until Slik Toxik came along, So that's kind of how we felt. So I was on the phone with the A&R guy, and I was just feeling like we were neglected. And I was so angry that I wrote those lyrics down as I was, instead of doodling pictures of it, I was just writing words. And I went into rehearsal with that, Kevin, I believe Kevin and Neil had been toying around with that. At that time, when we did the Irrelevant album, I mean, we're jumping ahead, but Pat and Rob weren't very present. They were off doing their sort of more of the lifestyle thing. Basically Dave, myself, Kevin, and Neil were the ones in rehearsal, constantly. And those guys would show up once in a while with a case of beer, So those guys, Neil and Kevin came up with that main riff for sure. And then as usual, Dave and I came in there and sort of tweaked the arrangement of the music, the composition, to marry vocals and words to it.
You can tell that Neil had something to do with that riff because, damn, his drums were synced right in there.
Well, I loved when I do pull the trigger and he's like it was like pretty heavy. I don't know if I can really listen to that song very much anymore though, because I'm 50 and I have a child and it's so funny. My kid this past summer, he didn't realize he hasn't really heard the Slik stuff until this year, to be honest with you. He's 15. He's old enough to know what it's all about. And I had my brother and my sister-in-law over, and he thinks like I'm a by the book prude. My son does, right? And they were like, "You don't know your dad, do you?" And I said, "You know what? Check this out." So I put on Doing the Nasty, and the opening song is Big Fucking Deal. And I'm telling him, I used to get crowds of thousands of people singing this, man. And he was just like, what? You know?
That's hilarious. Hilarious. You know, Nick, I always wanted to ask you when Slik Toxik kind of started coming apart and you were starting to look at other options. You know, with all these singer changes in the bands that went down, did you ever like submit a demo saying, "Oh, you know, Vince Neil's out of Motley Crue, maybe I'll that way"? Or
the only one that I actually vied for was Rat.
Yeah, well, there we go.
I had sent something down. I had my publicist at the time sent something down to them, but I didn't get a response. And at that time, who ended up becoming the vocalist?
Jizzy Pearl.
No, not right after. Not right after Stephen Piercy. I don't think it was Jizzy right away. It might. You know what? No, you're right. It was, because I remember saying to my wife, going, "Well, it's a lot easier to just get the guy down the street." You know?
Yeah.
And speaking of Jizzy Pearl, I mean, there's another band. I was at the time a huge love-hate band. The second record, Wasted America, I still play it to this day. I just love that record.
It's so good.
Those are some great riffs and some great melodies and that nasty voice. Like,
yeah.
But Rat, let's see, was there anybody else? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Nah.
You know what?
Jimmy Page, you know, a few years ago when I heard that he was thinking of doing something again, I had a certain management team look into that, because now we're fast forwarding again to what I'm doing today, what I do today. So I don't want to just transition you guys all over the place.
No, but you know, speaking of Zeppelin, Nicholas, I mean, once again, everybody hit up YouTube when we're done. There's a fantastic version of you going to California with classic albums live. And if there was ever a demo tape to send to Jimmy Page, that would be the one right there. I sent it to my buddy T-Bone the other day, and he came back with one word after he heard you singing. Wow.
Wow, thanks, T-Bone. Hey, listen, have you seen the one that we did at Q107? That was going to California, but we also did Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
And we also did Rain Song.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, well,
search for it.
Yeah, we got some work to do. So
you can find, if it's not on YouTube, you can probably find it on Facebook. If you go to the Classic Albums Live Facebook page.
Yeah, that's like.
Thanks, Giorgio. Thank you. I just saw that pop up. I didn't know what those were at first, because I don't have my, I didn't want to go look like you guys. I can see now, right? But
that's what I look like.
Well, welcome to the 50 Club. It's all good here. But
it's all good. I was doing a thing the other day. I was part of this project. Are you guys familiar with a guitar player from Jersey named Jack Frost? You guys?
Yeah.
Plays with Seven Witches, and he's playing with a few other people. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who he's playing with or anything, but he put a project together called Brothers in Arms.
Yeah.
And I just did a podcast thing with them the other day, and it was funny because I was on with a bunch of other vocalists, because this album consists of a bunch of singers. Mm-hmm. Paul Shortino's on it. Todd Poole from Roxy Blues on it. A bunch of guys. Keith St. John. Like, I could keep naming the guys. Anyway, we're all on there, getting ready for this thing. And I'm the guy going, come on, guys. Come on. Look around. Come on. You guys are a bunch of posers. Put the glasses on, So sure enough, everybody, put them on. But then for the thing, we took them off, right? So we've got an image to uphold.
So speaking of that record, Nicholas, here's the song that you're on, Long Way From Love.
Long Way From Love, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
well done.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's the other thing. I mean, you have your hands in all these different musical pies, so to speak. I mean, that's the amazing thing. When me and Mike kind of did a deep dive into your career, you've always kept moving, always kept pushing forward. I mean, when the Slik Toxik thing ended, you got into acting, and then you have to tell Mike, who's a fan of this band, who you were an extra of in a movie.
Oh, I'm not sure. You want to tell me?
Kiss Detroit Rock City.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I got to work on Detroit Rock City for 2 months, and this is a really funny story. Really funny story. So, I had been doing. So on that set, I wasn't an extra in that film. I actually was behind the scenes, sort of as a stand-in.
Oh, okay.
And a photo double in that movie. So I worked on that for 2 months, and you want to know how much of a bitch karma is, right? So I had been working in the film industry at that point for, I guess, a year or two or something like that. And every time I would go to a set, depending on the show, I would have a ponytail, right? Not a lot of shows wanted me with my hair down. Like when they did a Jimi Hendrix thing. I had my hair down because I was a hippie and Hayden Asbury, whatever. So all that type of stuff works with the long hair. But for the most part, certain shows, they'd be like doing this and pinning it up and creating these hairstyles. One day I'm working on this show and I'm in hair and makeup, and the hair woman is pulling my hair back from my face, getting ready to put it up in all sorts of pins. And she's going, "Oh, you've got such a lovely face. You've got such nice cheekbones. Why are you covering it up with your hair?" And I thought at that time, I'm kind of getting into this new field of work, going for auditions. I'm seeing, different looks that other guys got, and I'm not getting these roles. You know what? Screw it. When I go home today, I'm going to call my hairdresser and go tomorrow and get my hair all chopped off. So the next day, the Saturday, so this was a Friday. The Saturday, I go to my hairdresser's. I mean, this woman has worked on my hair still to this day, has worked on my hair for 30 years. And I've had it blackened down to my waist, and she's stripped all the black out to try to get it brown again. Like, we've worked our asses off on my hair over 30 years. Well, now I'm telling her to chop it off. And my wife's standing there, and she puts it in a ponytail, and she goes, "Are you ready? Okay, here we go." Cuts off the ponytail. And then proceeds, my wife's weeping, in the back. She's weeping. And I'm like, well, screw it. I'm going to go for this wholeheartedly. So the end of the day, I've got short hair, like I could be on an episode of Friends. Short hair, like Joey Tribbiani's younger brother, short hair, like Richard Grieco, short hair. So I get this call Sunday night.
Uh-oh.
Nick, yeah. Can you be on set Monday morning for something? Yeah. What is it for? They want you to be a stand-in on the Kiss movie, Detroit Rock City. And I'm like, yes, this is going to be cool. I get down there, and I was supposed to be standing in for this guy. His character, I can't remember the character's name, but he was the guy in Detroit Rock City with the toque and hair down to his waist.
Right.
And they
Can't remember his name.
They go, "What happened to your hair?" And I said, "I cut it." And they were like, "Oh, I had to wear a wig for 2 months on this itchy wig. I'm scratching my head constantly, and I'm just cursing myself that I had to wear this wig for 2 months." And it was the worst, and it was the worst wig ever because I was just a stand-in, right? It was like straw head or something. I don't know. horrible. So I need to say, I didn't even stand in for that guy. I was standing in for the main kid in the movie, the guy that played the drums, the blonde-haired guy.
Okay.
Which was awesome because I got to sit there across from like Joe Flaherty dressed as a priest, you know, doing this whole bit as though he's peaking on magic mushrooms. And I'm like I used to watch SCTV growing up, and there's one of the dudes like right across. You know, it's amazing.
Can you just explain to me real quick can I see you on my DVD copy? Like, are you in the scenes where you see the character from the back or something?
Yeah,
like that?
stuff like that. Like the whole intro at the end of that movie, I got a credit as a stand-in, but I was like, it was my hand that caught Peter Criss's drumstick. It was at the opening credits of the movie, the guy's getting dressed and putting okay, there you go, thanks. Chongo was his name.
Yeah.
When you see the guys getting dressed, it's me. I'm playing all of them getting dressed, like pulling on the jeans, putting on the cool belt, you know, pulling a shirt over, whatever. It's all me.
I'm never going to watch that movie the same again. Now this is in my head, and I'll be like, hey, look, it's Nick Walsh.
It's Nick Walsh's hand catching Peter Criss's drumstick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you made my night tonight. I'll tell you that.
So did you have a chance at conversing with the guys in KISS at all, or was it
not on that one? But I worked for them. I was a personal gopher for Paul and Gene when they did the KISS convention where they did the unplugged thing, and it was so amazing because like here I am sitting on the stage. Simmons is like right there, and they're like, you know, playing songs and stuff, and then he's looking over at me in between songs. I'm like, I yell, "Going Blind!" They played "Going Blind" right then and there. I was like, yeah, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, it was KISS that got me into, you know, it was the KISS bug that turned me into a musician, basically. And when I told Paul that, he's like, "Well, I hope you're paying your rent," you know. Like if it's my fault, you know what I mean?
Oh man.
And then Gene, when I met him that time, it was like when I introduced myself, he goes, "I have a son named Nicholas." Oh no, sorry. I said, "Yeah, my name's Nick, the same name as your son. You won't forget that." He goes, "You very well could be my son." and I said, "I don't think my mom was at a Wicked Lester concert, dude."
Oh my God!
Come on, where's the questions?
Oh, dude,
I got stories. Everybody always says, "Oh, you got the best stories." Like
you do.
I'm on Tube Talk with guys that tour the world, and they're telling me I got the best stories ever. You know,
well, you certainly have dropped some tonight. So from there, let's shift gears. What was your deal? What's that?
I said shifting gears back, or like where are we gonna go back to? Like, I mean, what like
we should talk about your current stuff. We should talk about Future Underground.
You know,
Famous Underground.
Famous Underground. Sorry, blah. Ugh.
See you later. Bye.
Yeah,
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if I was a dick like that?
Thanks,
I could imagine Mike. He'd never talk to me again.
I'll get Nick back as my permanent co-host.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, this is Deke. This is Nick, and we're thinking of having Mike on, but
nice.
It's all good. It's all good. No, let's go back. Let's go back to the Slik Toxik thing for a bit, because I mean, it's a big deal for us right now that you know, our music, basically Doing the Nasty, has been out of circulation since the I guess the demise of the compact disc.
Yeah.
You know, the advent of digital streaming and downloading, we seem to be, there you go. We seemed to have been left in the void. Mm-hmm. And just to let you know, sort of a synopsis about how that came about was many years ago, EMI, their catalog was absorbed by Universal Music. because they went out of business here. There's no more capital EMI here in Canada. I mean, EMI I think still exists on some level. I'm not a businessman, so you'd have to ask somebody that's a little bit more, into the business side, like Andy, your buddy Andy Curran there. He works more in that other than just playing in a rock band, Yeah. But they got the catalog, and I had spoken to Dean Cameron prior to him passing away. Dean was the president of Capital EMI, and he ended up becoming the main guy for Roy Thompson and Massey Hall in Toronto. Okay. And I happened to play down there all the time with Classic Albums Live. So I would see Dean, and I told him, I said, one of the last times I saw him, I said, I'd like to talk to you about who I'd need to speak to and how I would get, the Slik Toxik material back or out. And I didn't get that chance with him. So years had passed by. It's been a few years since Dean passed away. And I was kind of like, okay, I was at my wit's end with this. I didn't know who to speak to about this. So I reached out to an old, another person that worked in the music business by the name of Cameron Carpenter. He used to work for, I believe at the time, I don't know who he worked for, Sony or one of the other labels. It wasn't the label we were on, but we would, I'd run into Cam at the Horseshoe and have a beer. And he was a friend with Robin Black, if you remember Robin Black and the Intergalactic Rockstars. So I'd have drinks with them down there and stuff. Anyway, reached out to Cam. I said, who do you know at Universal that I could speak to about this? Immediately gave me the information. So I opened a dialogue with them. This was going back almost a year ago. They didn't even know it wasn't out because it's an archival. It's not their catalog. So there's so many different artists out there that probably were in the same position as us. So I opened the dialogue with them and we started talking about it and what we could do. And if it wasn't for COVID-19, I mean, it probably would have come out a lot earlier this year, but nobody was working in the offices. As you know, it's like this all over the place. Yeah. So it was a long time coming. And there was a few hoops that I had to jump through in order to make it happen. But nonetheless, it happened. And as you know, Doing the Nasty came out November the 5th.
Yeah.
And, I did this because this is the legacy of me and the guys. I mean, this is how we're known, right? Anything that carries us forward is because of that. And what, those 6 guys did together, 5 in the musical portion and 6 in the writing portion, with Dave. And I mean, it deserves to be out there. It still blows my mind. Like, here I was all these years thinking, oh, we're blacklisted because of Pat's limo incident, which, you didn't think it would come up, Deke, but I'm the one actually bringing it up, right? But I'm not kidding. That at that time, that was a friggin' career killer. That killed us. It wasn't cool because, and even my friends who are in American bands, they're saying, bro, if that was down here, you would have made front page of Rolling Stone, right? But this is Canada. We're a little different, we had to apologize for that kind of thing as opposed to being the bad boys of Canada, of rock in Canada or whatever. I mean, it was a silly thing that happened, but, to sort of push that aside, all these years I carried that in my brain that we were just blacklisted because of like this incident, because I don't hear us on Canadian radio anymore. And White Lies was a huge hit. White Lies, Black Truth was a big hit all over. Like, we charted in the States, we charted in Canada, and I'm hoping that now that this is available, it will be available for, people to start playing again. because unless you own the CD, how the hell are you going to get it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you know what, everybody has a iPhone, iPod, Android. Everybody's streaming music now. All you got to do is type in Slik Toxik in your search, add it to your library for just some killer rock and roll.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks.
Sorry to interrupt you, man. I just had to get that out there.
Thanks, guys. But yeah, so, you know, that's kind of where my head was. And then when I found out that, hey, Universal just has no idea they own it and it's in their archives, you know. So, you know, needless to say, Doing the Nasty's the big one. And already, you know, it's so funny. Fans are so funny. I love you to death, but you guys are hilarious. You know, the banners come out for social media saying that it's for digital platforms, and immediately you get the vinyl. I'm a vinyl guy.
Yeah.
And you know, to be honest with you, we approved the artwork for both Doing the Nasty and Smooth and Deadly for vinyl, and they, by the time our records were becoming released, they did away with it because the compact disc was the way of the future, guys. Right? Yeah. So we never got vinyl, and when we did get a gold record, it wasn't a gold record. Right on, Darren. Thank you, man. And you know, I'll get back to that what Darren just said in a second. But so we didn't even get a gold record; we got a gold CD plaque. That's not what I dreamed of. Right. You know, I agree. It's not what I dreamed of growing up. But I digress. I do this a lot because, you know, I'm always in my head picking all the things out to tell you guys, and one thing will sort of spark another thing. So back to what I was just saying, the record coming out. Now that it's available through digital streaming means the fans want vinyl. The fans are asking, what about Smooth and Deadly? It's like, guys, it was a week before the release date, even when it said coming November 5th, and you're already asking about the other records or other, you know, media forms or whatever. One thing at a time, you know.
They're hungry.
But my favorite part, like you just said, Duke, my favorite part, and what I've said to fans who have asked those questions is, let's take it one step at a time. But the main thing is that now, you know, people can have it wherever they go. Yeah. And whether it's they play it through their TV, their computer, their phones, it's now there forever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's finally out. And I just felt that, you know, like I said, the guys and I, although we're not all a band of brothers anymore, and we're not all in touch with one another anymore, we've all gone, you know, our separate ways, so to speak. We still have this tie that binds us. And as I said, I think it deserves to be out there. I really hope that, you know, there's some movie coming out that wants to play hell of a time in their film and give us that opportunity now that it's available. Be on XM satellite radio, maybe on you know, some of those those programs, whereas they couldn't get it before. So to let you all know, sometime in the new year, Smooth and Deadly will be out on digital.
Good.
But one thing at a time.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, you know, I don't know, we don't want to overstay our welcome with you.
No, we can keep going. We can keep going as long as people don't get sick of me, right?
No, we could. That's great. I mean, if you want to keep going, that's great. So
we haven't even talked about some of the other things, you know.
No,
so,
we
haven't. So
like
future above ground.
Right. Yeah, those guys.
So this year alone, so I did a song with Neil Busby, the ex-drummer of Slik Toxik, called In the Field of Fire. I've done the song with Brothers in Arms.
Yep.
I released a Famous Underground EP called In My Reflection, with two videos off of that. And that originally was supposed to be a record that came out at the start of 2020. The plan was to release that for June of 2020.
Right.
And, you know, once everything changed and we put it sort of on the shelf to decide what we were going to do, myself and Lori Ann Green, who's my partner in Famous Underground, we decided, you know what? Can we talk, Lori Ann Green? That's funny. I'm already talking, Lori Ann.
Boom.
See that? I'm psychic, dude. So Lori Ann and myself, we decided that we were going to break the album up into EPs because there would be no fanfare whatsoever on any releases that happened last year. Mm-hmm. To put all that work, like, and we spent a couple of years on the Famous Underground record because, excuse me, we've all done a bunch of different things. And to put out, 12 or 13 songs and then have nobody or have it because of the internet. So everything's so fast food now, with the internet, that you kind of need to always have content to stay relevant. And if we put out a full-length record and then we weren't touring or doing anything of the sort, then it would sort of like all that hard work would kind of get lost in the drift with everything else. So we decided to break it up. So we did a 5-song EP in June. We're going to do another EP coming out in the new year. We're not sure what month yet, probably closer to when the weather's breaking a little bit. Here in Toronto, Deke, not Thunder Bay. It'll still be winter time for you.
We live in an igloo still then.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, and I'm working on other stuff still. I did a song with some friends of mine who do Def Leppard stuff. I did a cover of Women that's on the internet. I did a cover of Walking the Dog with Lori Ann Green and two guys I play in the Classic Albums Live Zeppelin band with. That's all like on Facebook, YouTube. Like you can find all this stuff everywhere. I just like to keep busy. I'm always chomping at the bit about music. It's what I do. It's my thing. I love singing. That's what I love about Classic Albums Live is that I get to sing songs that I never thought in a million years I'd ever get the opportunity to. Like I do the Zeppelin, but one of my all-time bucket lists was to be able to perform Freddie Mercury. And we did a tour of a night at the opera 2 years ago. Wow. And I mean, to me, that is the ultimate. Like when I was a kid growing up, it was all about Alice Cooper, Kiss, and Queen, and Aerosmith. Like those were the bands, right? As a kid in the 70s, because I had older brothers that listened to those records, and when they weren't home, I would sneakily go in, make sure I knew exactly where it went in the album collection, so they wouldn't know I took it out and played it, Oh, but yeah, awesome. So always chomping at the bit for music.
And speaking of In My Direction,
reflection. In My Direction is a Rat song, Deke.
Oh, I got it.
You want it your way.
We're tied 1-1.
I'm gonna fire myself.
It's gonna be Scotch on the Rocks with Nick Walsh.
Yeah, we're both fired now. We're canceled.
You're both close.
We'll both dismiss ourselves right now, and you can run it. But people, same thing. Just add it to your device of any kind. And Nick, I have to say, the Like an Animal video, very well done.
Thank you.
Love the green background scenery in it. Love your fine workmanship with the knife and doing some eating during the video.
Right. Okay. So that was one of my questions. Is that a snail you're eating? Escargot?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God.
It's a snail. All right. I had to do that scene probably about, we had 10 snails.
Oh my God.
And I ate 7 of them.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
And they're big ones too. They were like honking snails.
Yeah, I'm like, Where's he find this snail where he's filming a music video? You know.
Well, you see, the reason for that scene was that was sort of like the day that we were going to shoot, the day before we were going to shoot my cut scenes, right? I was like lying in bed and I was thinking, and I went, oh my God, for my son, I have to do this because we watch a couple of on YouTube. We watched this guy called Coyote Peterson, and he like a couple of years ago, he did the Sting Index, where like they go around the world and get different types of hornets and wasps and ants and all this stuff. And he do these stings and like lose his marbles. And then we watched this other show called You versus the Wild on Netflix, which is actually an interactive show. So the guy, it's one of those shows where the guy says, let's just say he's on a mission. There's some escaped animals and he's got to go, find this monkey or whatever to get it back onto the sanctuary before it goes out, into the actual wild and gets eaten by a lion or something. So on his mission, it's like, okay, we've been out here for 3 hours and I need something to eat. I've just found these berries, which can give me some sustenance, but it'll only be like, a rush kind of thing. Whereas I've just found this, snail, for example, and I've got, or a nest of, there's a bunch of snails under this log, and I can eat the snails for protein, which will sustain me longer. What do you want me to do? And then you get to choose. And me and my son, we're always going for the grossest thing first. we're always going for, we want to see him eat this like snake or worm or lizard or whatever the hell he's doing before we go for a berry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why when I had that, I was like, oh my God, it would be so cool to like just throw in, like, I'm out there hunting for something. And don't tell them what I'm hunting for if they haven't seen the video for it. Seeing the reveal at the end, but I always like the great reveal, right? So I had to throw that in. That one was for my kid. And again, a talking piece like this.
That's great.
Yeah.
For 2021, it's a fantastic video.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
And you're back playing guitar.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that, like Slik, I wrote a lot of songs, but I didn't play on stage. Therefore, a lot of people didn't know that I did that. And Famous Underground is my baby. I write all the songs and I record all the guitars pretty much. It's, Darren Boyd does all those crazy ripping guitar solos, and Dacius Barboom on the drums, which, as I said to you, Mike, he was actually in Thunder Circus.
Right. Yeah.
They opened up for Slik Toxik for our album release party. He was the drummer of the band that opened up for us. And actually, they didn't open up for us. We wanted them to go on after us so we could party with the fans.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we used to do all sorts of stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you guys follow the Slik Toxik Facebook or Instagram page, but I posted a picture the other day of a promotional item that we used to, was a big thing. We had our own tequila bottle and shot glasses for the Doing the Nasty thing, just like you see on the cover of Smooth and Deadly. And we used to do promotional items like that when you were allowed to do stuff like that then, right? The same way cigarette companies used to give us money to promote their brand while we were on tour. You can't do that anymore. Or the Players or Demorier Cup of tennis or whatever, right? You can't do that anymore. Well, we used to actually do a promotion at shows where we would have these beautiful girls wearing Slik Toxik garb and hot pants and stuff, and get at a certain point in the show. It was usually, I think, near the end of the night before or after we did BFD, handing out Slik Toxik shooters, and or we would just buy a round for the whole bar, right? We would do stuff like that all the time. Like, I mean, people would just, somebody commented on the other day saying, like, best show ever, you guys bought the bar around. That wasn't the one and only time, we used to do stuff like that all the time.
Oh, that's pretty cool. You know, Nick, I also, before we let you go, I wanted to
Oh
ask
yeah,
you,
see, it's you that's got to go. Somebody's
No.
going, Geek, will you get off that damn computer?
I heard the dog barking earlier. I think he wants walkies.
Yeah.
No, it's just we just don't want to keep you, but if you want to stay, we can keep rolling. It's all good.
I'm gonna have to take this jersey off. I'm getting hot.
Nick, I wanted to ask you about some of the tours you did back around the time of doing the Nasty. You guys toured with Black Sabbath.
We didn't tour with Black Sabbath. We played one show with them. They only did 2 shows, I believe, on that tour in Canada. One was in Montreal and one was in Toronto at Massey Hall. And we had played with Sabbath at Massey Hall. And prior to us going on stage, it was supposed to be Love Hate, which I was really looking forward to because, as I told you earlier, I was a big Love Hate fan. As it turns out, the old story of somebody in the band couldn't get across the border. So it ended up being just the 2-band bill. So it was Slik Toxik and it was Sabbath with the return of Ronnie James Dio. And I believe the album was called Dehumanizer and the big video or song was called TV Crimes.
TV Crimes.
So if you remember. So yes, we played one date with him or with them rather. We toured with Yngwie all through the US, Yngwie Malmsteen.
Wow.
How was that?
That was awesome. And that was a thrill. I mean, we heard all the stories and stuff and Yngwie was, a barrel full of laughs to be kind and put it this way, like halfway through the tour his drummer Bo Werner was on our Winnebago. He was kicked off the tour bus, so
oh my god,
for just silliness. Like it was such an outrageous tour and some of the shenanigans that happened on that tour are priceless. But I could only tell most of them behind closed doors.
Well, dude, you're obviously a very natural storyteller. So why haven't you written? How come you haven't gone full Sean Kelly and written your book yet?
Because I'm going to have Sean write it for me.
Okay, gotcha.
Do you guys know that Sean and I were in a band? Did you know that the pre-Famous Underground, before Laurie and I changed the name to Famous Underground, we were called Revolver, and we had Gene Scarpelli, which is the son of Gino Scarpelli of Gatto.
Yeah.
Gene was, you got to write a book, Darren? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what he's telling you.
Gene Scarpelli on guitar, Sean Kelly on guitar, Nick Walsh lead vocals, Lorianne Green bass, and Sheldon Thomas on drums. And we played together for a few years. And, we're all friends. We're all still friends. Hence why I had the opportunity through Sean to do the Metal on Ice thing, which was a great experience. Fabulous show. I wish that Sean and the management group that put on that show had a pro camera shoot happening that night, because I mean that was a moment in time that would have been really nice to have on video.
Cool. I'd like to pull up a question here that Brian sent a little earlier here.
Okay, great.
It's a good one.
Yeah, Kick-Axe.
George Christen.
Listen, Kick-Axe was one of my favorite bands too. That Vices record specifically.
Yeah.
Heavy Metal Shuffle, Dreaming About You, great song. It's funny when I got on, I think it was MySpace at the time, and I friended Victor Lang, and that was a big deal that Victor knew who I was. I was like, wow, are you kidding me? This dude knows who I am. I saw Kick-Axe. I remember seeing the Heavy Metal Hurricane came through Toronto, and that was Helix, Kick-Axe, Quiet Riot, and Scorpions, and that was just a phenomenal bill. And this was at the peak. Like this was Vices. I believe it was Vices. What's the album? Razor's Edge with
Walking the Razor's Edge.
Yeah, and I guess it would have been Condition Critical for Quiet Riot.
84 would have been tradition.
We're all crazy now.
Yep.
And Scorpions was it had to be Love at First Sting.
Wow.
So it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. So I saw Kick-Axe live then. I wasn't old enough to see them whenever they came through town playing the clubs. But that whole thing with Kick-Axe was for the Metal on Ice CD, Sean wanted to do covers of everybody he was playing with. Mm-hmm. So I think initially he probably wanted to do Hell of a Time. I think that's what he brought to me. And I said, come on, dude, I'm like your age. I said, like, I grew up listening to all these guys too, you know? Mm-hmm. I said, how about let's do a cover? Let's do like Kick-Axe. Let's bring the Kick-Axe into this thing. Yeah. And he thought it was a great idea. And I initially said Heavy Metal Shuffle because that was the one, again, that was the heaviest track on the record, right? Like, again, like you like that riff from I Want a Gun.
I love it.
Shuffle, same thing. It's got that sort of minor thing, you know, big scream off the top. Yeah. And he said, no, we're going to do, you know, obviously his decision, his record, all that stuff, On the Road to Rock. And I'm like, I'm fine with that too, right? As long as I don't have to do Hell of a Time, you know? So, well, because in my brain, you know, this is something that I'm digressing a little bit, but this is how I operate, how I talk and tell stories, is that, you know, me and the other guys from Slik Toxik that still remain in contact, sure, we could have done what a lot of those guys have done, re-records of the albums. But it's not the same, man. Like, you know, the fire, the energy, the fights that we got in, the headbutting, the hugs, the kisses, the crying, the getting drunk together, like everything that we did as Slik Toxik wouldn't be Slik Toxik unless you had those 6 guys.
Right.
Like I couldn't be Slik Toxik on my own, you know. As much as I'm the voice that does, I could go out and sing the songs on my own, which I've done for the last 30 years. Every band I've had, I'm the only guy out of all the Slik guys that covers a Slik Toxik song because it's not a cover to me. Like I wrote these tunes, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I wrote them, I sang them, whatever. But without those other guys playing the riffs and us playing off each other and all that stuff, that magic wouldn't have happened. We could re-record the songs as songs, but then they're just songs. You know what I mean? Karaoke, you know? So that's the way I felt about, you know, recutting the Slik Toxik for Sean's record. But I'm glad he jumped on board. And the question, who asked the question? Was it
Brian?
Brian that asked the question. Brian, to answer your question, the greatest part about it was we had Ray Harvey and Victor Langen on those tracks. Like,
pretty legit.
Yeah, they're singing backgrounds. They're doing all like backgrounds with me, and this room that you see here, you don't see the whole room because we're all in little slits like this, but this is the room I recorded the vocals in. This is where I do all my stuff, right? Other than when we have to go track real drums somewhere, this is where we do everything at my place, at my house. So, yeah, it was great. I didn't do it. Sean or the management team that was involved with it, Coalition, they were the ones that probably talked to. But knowing Sean knows everybody now, right? Like that's how I met Sean. The first time I ever not met him, but got an email from this guy, Sean Kelly, years ago. You know, when Hotmail was the big thing. And I just got this email from this guy saying like, "Hey man, big fan, would love to do something with you one day." And then I ended up getting an opportunity to go play at some sort of at the Alma Combo. I don't remember if it was a benefit or something. And I went to the rehearsal, and he was introduced to me as Kelly. And I thought this guy's name was Kelly. You know, like a lot of rock glam guys have girls' names for first names. You know what I mean? And then we were all talking, and then somebody mentioned '69 Duster. And I said, "Oh, do you guys know a guy named Sean Kelly?" And they go, "Sean Kelly." After we'd already jammed.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like the songs I sang that night were, I think I did Hot Child in the City by Nick Gilder and 18 maybe by Alice. But Alice Cooper is like one of those, that's one of the things in my voice. In my actual voice, I have some Alice Cooper. Like, same with the Dave Mustaine. Some people say, "Oh, we covered Peace Sells. Famous Underground covered Peace Sells, but who's buying?" And people go, "Oh my God, you sound exactly like Dave Mustaine." And I go, "Yeah, I sound like I'm trying to copy Alice Cooper too."
Oh, that's hilarious. But I could see Sean asking you about Hell of a Time because, as we all know, the three of us know, Sean is just a passionate, huge music fan. So obviously, the Doing the Nasty album at that time.
Well, did you read the book? Did you read his book?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that whole opening thing when he was talking about me, like, because I already knew Sean.
Yeah.
And played in a band with Sean, and then he wrote this book. And I had no idea that how he felt about me while we were in a band together.
Yeah.
Until I read that book. He'd sent me a PDF version of the book prior to it coming out, and it brought me to tears reading what he had written about me. For real, I was really struck, and I love Sean Kelly. I mean, Sean plays with everybody though, so I don't know if he has time to even ever play with me again. No, I'm just kidding.
He does play with everybody. I mean, wow.
Yeah,
well,
totally.
It's amazing. That Metal on Ice thing opened up the door, I believe, for him to play with Coney and Lee. So,
Yeah.
And he'd already played with Helix, who were also on that CD.
Well, we know that already, which opened a door for me that I got to do. I got to do a song with Brent Donner, the doctor. Him and his brother did this thing every year. I think the last one was when I did it. I think it was 2016. They used to do this New Year's song, Happy New Year 2000. They're called the Spoads, SPOADS, like as in toad, but Spode.
Yeah.
You might be able to find that on YouTube as well. Sean's in that video playing bass as well. And then I got asked, Brian Vollmer called me up out of the blue. Nick, this is Brian Vollmer. How far you doing? I'm like, holy shit, Vollmer's calling me. Like, what the hell? You made it when like Vollmer's calling you, And he says, listen, we got this track on our new album. The album, I guess it's called Bastard Blues. The album.
Bastard of the Blues. It's a killer. Yeah.
And he goes, we got this song, and we got this song, Screaming at the Moon, and like, I thought, let's get Walsh on there. He can scream. He has a really high screamy voice. You know what I mean? So I'm on there again. They sent me the tracks here to my home studio, and I did what they wanted me to do. So I'm on that record. I'm credited on that record too. So again, that's through the Sean Kelly contact. It's just such a weird thing because all of us somehow are all entangled.
Yeah.
Other tied, together by something. You can find, and now at this juncture, I'm definitely going to say you've heard the 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon. Well, it's now the 6 degrees of separation with Sean Kelly, for God.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We had him on a few months ago, and he's just such a passionate music fan, and
did he talk about me as much as I talked about him?
Yes.
Actually, you know what? We did bring up Metal on Ice and On the Road to Rock because I asked him before he contacted you if he tried through various channels getting a hold of George Christen, because that guy kind of just fell off the face of the earth, kind of.
Yeah.
So, so he gave us the bit of the backstory on that. So he did talk about you. So,
well, again, when I read the book, I don't recall Kick-Axe even really being mentioned in that book. And at the end of the book, he does state like, hey, I didn't this isn't a history book of the Canadian history of metal or rock kind of thing. This is my take and the bands that I was into. I'm sure, somebody else who's a historian, could do a book where you're obviously including Kick-Axe, Anvil, and S.O.T.R and Voivod. I can name another 100 Canadian rock and metal bands. Sire, like I could name everybody. But that wasn't Sean's goal for the book. And it was something that was, passionate to him. And I thought it was a great book, a great record. It was me that spearheaded the song Metal on Ice. I said to him, again, I'm thinking in the shower. I think when I'm in the shower, I had this idea and it came to me about Metal on Ice. And I thought, Sean, because again, myself and Dave Murcell growing up as writers, we were really big on movies and Dave was big on comics and I was big on like Looney Tunes, cartoon, like all this stuff that always wanted to have things represented properly, like a visual with the thing. So I'm like, Sean, you got a book with a companion CD. Why not have a theme song for it? Like, you know what I mean? Same way you got a theme song for your opening credits or whatever. And he loved the idea. And we put that together again here in this room. He came over and we just hashed out a couple of ideas that we'd already had. And that song came together really quickly. Obviously, there's a version of it where I'm singing the whole thing, which I would love to put it out there at some point. But it was also a big thrill for me to be sitting there telling, some of my Canadian rock heroes how to sing the song that me and Sean wrote. No, could you do it like this? Gulp. Did I just tell Vollmer to do that? Did I just tell Dixon to do that? Like, geez, Darby, could you please, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
that's so awesome. So awesome.
Yeah, guys. Yeah.
So
guys, this could be part one. I'll see you tomorrow night, same time.
You know what? Oh, you know what, Nick? This question was sent a few minutes ago, and
where are you seeing the questions?
Geez. He has super user access.
Yeah.
Okay. I see some stuff now. I just shrunk the screen, and I see that there's a whole bunch of people.
So there's
if you go onto your sidebar there, you have a little field called comments, and you should be able to see some there.
Yeah, I do. It's great.
There's been a ton of them. A lot of them asking how you've discovered the Fountain of Youth as well.
Yeah.
I'm blessed, I guess. Excuse me. But the truth of the matter is, like, a lot of the guys that played in that era and stuff just didn't take care of themselves. And a lot of guys did, some guys, delved too much into the hard stuff. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, I couldn't. My instrument is my voice, my body, right?
You can't abuse it.
So, funny story. I mean, a couple of times in the Slik days, I mean, some guys will tell you that this is real. They'll confirm it. I mean, I would call hotel security on my own band.
Oh, shit.
I'd be like, hello, front desk. Yes. This is room blah, 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 blah. I've got a very important meeting tomorrow, and these hooligans are whooping it up down the hall. And they'd be like, okay. And I'd be sitting there in my room, and then I'd hear, and then I hear the music go down, and I hear the door open up, and then you'd hear, and that's all the pitter patter of footsteps leaving the hotel. All the people in the party filing out. And I'd be like, thank goodness now I can get some sleep. Without sleep, the singer has no voice.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. That's one of the best stories I've ever heard.
One time I called that we were in Gatineau, Quebec, which is just on the other side of Ottawa. We were playing, there used to be a place there called Roxanne's that all the bands played. And I remember we were staying at the motel there. It was called Montcalm. Calm Mountain, right?
Okay.
And we used to stay at this motel, 2-story motel. They had a swimming pool. It was great. I remember one time we did a little tour of the sort of Quebec area and whatnot. It was the first night of this tour. Yeah, that's right, Jeff. Those darn noisy hooligans. Yeah, and I was wearing one of those sleeping caps and
right
down, and I'm like yelling at them. No, and I remember I called the front desk to tell them, like, this is crazy. Like, it was actually crazy because we brought one of our best friends' bands with us. So imagine these two bands from Toronto going to like the other side of Ontario to Quebec, where, you know, this place is just crazy. It has people from Ottawa coming across because they can drink until 3, right? Because the liquor laws are different. And you can buy booze at the store or beer at the store, a corner store and all this stuff. So our guys were in seventh heaven, right? So we play the show, go back to the hotel. Next night, we're supposed to be playing in Montreal. The next night, we're supposed to be playing, you know, wherever we're going. And I just couldn't deal with it anymore. Like, it was like a frat party. It was like National Lampoon's Van Wilder or something. People outside yelling and screaming, going up and down the halls, all this stuff. So I called front desk, and I thought the front desk would take care of it. Next thing you know, the Gatineau police arrive. And start kicking out these people. And they're saying to some of the girls, like, you know, we know your parents and stuff like that. And anyhow, the next day we all get ready to go to Montreal, and I get in the van, and my buddy turns to me, who's playing guitar in the other band. He says, "Nick, you should have seen it last night, man. You missed it." I said, "What?" "Oh my God, the cops came and they kicked everybody out." And I looked at him, I went, pointing at myself. That was me. Bad boy. So very good.
Oh man, that's so good.
So many good stories tonight.
Oh, you seriously have to write a book, Nicholas.
Yeah, at some point.
I'd just rather sit there and do, sit there with like the Scotch on the Rocks, sit there with the Scotch and tell stories. You know, come every week, a new episode. I'd rather do episodes than write a book.
Well, you know what? You're more than welcome to always come back. We would love to have you back sometime down the road with it.
We've only scratched the surface of the questions.
Yeah. I got 4 more pages.
All that research for nothing, eh, boys?
Well, hey, let's just consider.
I'm an open book, guys. Like, seriously. And everybody knows. Everybody goes, "Oh my God, I don't remember." Ask Nick. Ask Walsh. He knows.
Yeah. Well, hey, you were a good boy on the road. I mean, you're calling the cops on your.
Don't say that. I'm liable to start getting people coming forward saying he wasn't that good. You know, I don't need that knocking at my door, boys.
Well, you know what? Me and Mike just want to thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And like I said earlier, whenever Famous Underground, if you guys get on the road doing shows or more music, you know, we would love to have you come back on.
Great.
Tell more stories. Just please stay in touch. And thanks for just hanging out with a couple of knuckleheads.
No worries, guys. I mean, I love doing these things, and I love telling these stories and chatting and stuff with like-minded people who are, you know, into the same music and era of where we came from and knowledgeable about it. As I said, you got to get Drew Masters on your show.
Yeah, I've been talking to Drew.
Tell him Nick Walsh said you got to do the show.
Okay, well, we'll drop you for sure.
Do it.
I'm just going to run out the intro. Would you mind just staying on for a minute or two, Nick?
No problem at all. Okay, guys, to the audience, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.
Hope to see you again. FamousUnderground.tv, Famous Underground Facebook, Slik Toxik Facebook. You'll get all our other social links there. Give us a like.
There you go. Buy some.
All right. I'm just going to run out the intro and just hold on a sec, guys.
inside your head. And I'll grab a bottle of a single malt instead. I'll meet you in the middle of rock and roll's glory days, and wake up in the morning in a thick purple haze.